This is Kyle Madson with your top stories on Sports 1140. Well, it was a tough day in the Northern California sports world yesterday. The Kings lost to the Jazz 133-112. Sacramento dropped both games of a weekend back-to-back. Now they get a few days off before wrapping up November on Thursday at home against the Clippers. The Raiders kept it close in Baltimore, but ultimately lost 34-17 after Baltimore pulled away with a couple of touchdowns in the fourth quarter. And the 49ers got blown out in Tampa Bay 27-9, and the Niners were coming off their bye week there. San Francisco also announced yesterday that they are releasing linebacker Reuben Foster following his arrest for a domestic violence incident Saturday night at the team hotel in Tampa Bay. Foster's release is expected to be processed today, at which point he will land on waivers. It's 7:02. Peak Financial wants to talk retirement. Dial pound 250 and say the word money. Now time for the second hour of the drive on Sports 1140 KHGK.
Rise and shine, sleepyhead.
I'm not letting you go to work today.
Wait, what?
Everybody, listen up.
Welcome to The Drive.
Morning, morning, morning.
You're gonna talk.
Get on the phone at 339-1140.
Pretty awesome, huh?
Jump in on our text line at 441140.
Everyone is talking about it. You must know that.
The Drive starts now.
All right, Kings Jazz here in a second. We'll break that down a little bit more. Plus, we have your Peckus Brothers plays of the game because we had a Jazz game and a Golden State game. How crazy is this? We're not even in December yet, and the Kings and Jazz have played three of their 4 games. One more game, and that will be April 5th, and that is in Utah. Coming up at 7:15, 4-down territory, and then we're back to football at 8:05 after a long stretch of Kings Jazz, Kings weekend, that is, at 7:35. It is Kingsaholics Anonymous. We haven't had one of these meetings in a while. I want to get to that in a second. I want to keep that segment by itself. We went to break talking about stupidity in the NFL. And one thing we saw that was very, very stupid over the weekend, Kyle Madson.
Speaking of stupidity over the weekend, the Jaguars have fired their offensive coordinator, according to multiple reports.
Yeah, that's just a preamble probably to a whole slew
That's
of
Doug
firings.
Marrone trying to save his job.
I have it in here at 8:35, and we'll talk about it. And I also have it in 4-down territory. Jaguars are just a conundrum to me. We need to talk about Jalen Ramsey, too, shooting his mouth off. So Frank Reich called a play which called for Andrew Luck to receive a pass. It was on the near side of the field where the camera was, the Colts left. And Luck caught the ball and was tackled and slammed down on his shoulder. And Luck was not hurt, and that's important to say, at least not that we know of. Andrew Luck yesterday had a fine game, and he's put together a string of very, very fine games. 27-24. Hey, Adam Vinatieri hit a game-winning field goal. What do you know? After just shanking one earlier, by the way.
Andrew Luck has now thrown for 3+ touchdowns in 8 straight games. I believe that's tied for the second longest streak in NFL history.
It's pretty good.
Decent.
30 of 37 for Luck, 3 touchdowns, did throw 2 picks. Going up against Ryan Tannehill and the Dolphins. Hey, by the way, quick note as well. How about Phil Rivers? Starting the game 25 of 25, missed his 26th pass because he got hit on the release. It was just a little dump off. Now, Phillip Rivers tying the record for most consecutive completions at 25 wasn't as shocking to me as who Phillip Rivers tied with 25 consecutive completions. Kyle, did you see the stat? You know who he tied? Phillip Rivers tied for 25 consecutive completions with
Ryan Tannehill.
Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, I saw it.
Oh, you did see it. I was going to say, what a great guess. Ryan Tannehill.
You could have let me sit here and guess for the rest of today's show and probably all of the rest of the week's shows.
And told you that it was an active quarterback, probably. You wouldn't have gotten it. An active quarterback in Miami probably still would have taken 2 days.
If you had said an active quarterback in Miami, I literally might have guessed Osweiler first.
You might have gone with Frank Gore first. He's not even an active quarterback.
True fact.
Saw a graphic during that game, by the way. They were posting it was a graphic on Frank Gore being a first ballot Hall of Famer. I thought of you.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, it's just an understood thing now.
That makes me really happy.
Here's the coach of the Colts, Frank Reich. We haven't heard this audio yet, being asked about Andrew Luck taking that fourth down catch in this ballgame.
Yeah, I thought if he gets hurt on this play, you guys are going to kill me, right? I mean, you guys are going to kill me for a 4-yard pass completion. But like I said, that's a credit to their defense, how they played it. But then really a big-time credit to Jacoby and Andrew to adjust.
Yeah, dude. You would have not literally gotten killed, but I understand what he's saying. If Andrew Luck had gotten hurt, Kyle, on that play, and I'm Jim Irsay, and I'm not always thinking straight because I'm Jim Irsay, but if I am, I fire Frank Reich after the game.
Follow Frank Reich after the game?
Reich after the game. I say, it's bad enough, Frank. It's bad enough that we're sitting here at 6-5, and we could be 6-4-1.
That's why I could never be a manager in anything, because I'd be like, Frank, there is a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things. And I would say stuff like that through the whole firing.
You realize the Colts would be tied for first place right now had he just taken the tie.
That's not true.
Hold on. It was with the Texans, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Texans are 7-3, Colts are 6-5. What am I missing here?
The Texans would be 6-3-1, and the Colts would be 6-4-1.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's what I was missing was one game.
Mm-hmm.
See, you should have thrown the flag there.
So the but if the Texans lost tonight, would tie.
That would tie.
It's a half game.
You got two teams at the top of the AFC South with a combined 12-game winning streak. And I give no credit to Frank Reich. I loved him in the comeback in the Oilers game. I don't like him here. Bills, Oilers, old people remember that. All right, let's get into it. The
92 AFC title game, right?
Yeah, you remember that.
I do.
You remember that game. You were there, actually. Kings, Jazz, 133-112. This is a bad game. This is the first game all year that the Kings lost a game they should have won, in my opinion. There were no other bad losses. There were blowouts. They got killed by Milwaukee. They got beat by a very good Pelicans team early in the year. They've had some games that were rough. This, for some reason, feels like the most disappointing loss. And I'm not counting the Lakers loss because that's a rivalry game, and we care more about that than normal games. This is the first game I remember watching the Kings and going, yeah, you know what? They didn't have the energy. They didn't have the hustle. It looked like they didn't have the heart. They were lethargic. And everyone's pointing to the second game of a back-to-back, or as bloggers like to call it, Segababa. I don't buy that. Now, of course, I'm a big fat radio host sitting here, and there's probably somebody playing in the NBA going, I don't care if you don't buy it, dude. Try it. Yeah, I'm sorry. You're in the NBA. Everybody plays back-to-back games. You're playing at home. You beat the team last week. That team does not have their star player in Donovan Mitchell. You were up 7-0. And by the way, the road game you were on was an hour and a half away in Oakland, and you fly. You fly to Oakland and back. They don't drive. They fly. I mean, were they dead tired from the 30 minutes they played versus the Warriors a day before?
I think it's more. I think it's more of a. For me, the back-to-back thing is more of a mental thing than a physical thing.
Then suck it up, there, guys.
It wasn't.
And I'm not just trying to be like macho man here. I'm. Come on. That's something they got to learn. They got to learn how to. They got to learn how to win like against the Warriors. They are. You can't give 3 out of 4 defending champion Golden State Warriors 3 consecutive possessions to end the game in a 1-point game. You can't allow them to get 2 straight offensive rebounds. And you can't go into a game like the Jazz where the Utah is wounded and go, man, we're up 7-0. We're going to win.
Okay, so they take their lump and they learn from it.
Of course. I'm not calling the season here. I'm not saying the season's over. I'm saying I can't do the thing where I go, they're 10-10 though, and it's just one game, and they'll be fine.
But how cool is that, though?
It is cool.
The fact that there is an expectation that the Kings should go in, and they had an opportunity to beat the Warriors, and it wasn't so much like, that was great. They were close. It was like, no, they should have won that game.
Yeah.
They have been a better team than the Jazz through 20 games. And at home, without Donovan Mitchell, that's a game the Kings should win. Like, we are now looking at games that the Kings should win. And I know that moral victories don't count. And I know that
and they've gotten to that point, by the way. Let's be important. Remember we were doing the Kings thing, the moral victory, the Kings inverted negativity game score, and we don't even do that anymore.
We
because
scrapped that because they're too good for it.
Exactly, and that's something. That's a positive.
Now, what we can't see moving forward, okay, so this time you're going to go, okay, it's a learning experience. Now they have to go in a game like the Clippers where they've had a few games off and they need to play their best game of the year.
Sure. Against, to me, the most surprising team in the NBA. The Los Angeles Clippers are the most surprising team in the NBA. And I don't know that it's particularly close. I said on Saturday, if you pushed me to it, and I'm exaggerating, of course I could, but I'd have trouble naming 3 Clippers. That doesn't mean I'd go down the roster. I would have heard of 99% of them. But just stop right now and name 3 Clippers. Don't text it into me. It's not the easiest thing in the world.
Tobias Harris.
Okay.
Boban Marjanovic.
Okay.
Is that his last name?
Sure.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Okay.
That's 3.
There's 3.
Thank you.
Attaboy Kyle.
Thank you.
No Blake Griffin. No Jamal Crawford. No Chris Paul. No Austin Rivers. No Doc Rivers.
Definitely Doc Rivers.
Oh, yeah, he's still there. I don't count him. Yeah, throw another flag. They're 13-6. They're first in the Pacific.
They're really good.
That's
And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is nice, dude.
That's pretty crazy, buddy. That the Clippers are right there in the Pacific Division. Well, right there, they're first. More on the Kings. We got to get into this Warriors game, too. Shut up, Kyle. and shut up with your condescension. See, now I'm sensitive Kings fan, like
this
Matt
is unbelievable.
A's fan.
Okay, here, we need to.
Yeah, this is great. Look, Warriors lost against it. Can't wait for this good team.
No, the Warriors won, but
whatever. Felt like a loss with your tweet. 4 down Turkey. Do we still have 4 down Turkey Tory on here?
Yeah, that's what it still says.
Yeah, it's coming up next. Let's talk football.
Liked it.
Sports 1140 KHTK. Four down territory brought to you by Fire Wings. 21 different flavors to choose from.
I'm due for a Fire Wings trip.
Yeah, so am I. I'm thinking of holding out until they open Antelope.
You want to go to Fire Wings today for lunch?
Yeah.
Okay.
Firewings.com, just wing it.
You're not going to go with me, are you?
Let's see. First
I'll hit
down.
up Scott Navarro. Scott will go.
Scott will go. You have a nice quiet lunch with Scott.
What was your favorite thing from the Thanksgiving Day game?
I
tried.
I know you did. You did your best. Before we get into favorite thing, because my favorite thing has to do with the Bears, shout out to Coach Mike Ditka, who suffered a what was called a minor heart attack last week. Sounds like all good. I think he's home or returning home soon, but Coach, you're not listening and you'll never hear this, but we're thumbs up for you. Mike Ditka, one of the great characters of all time. And great players and great coaches.
While we're giving Bears shout-outs, shout out to former Kings MVP and Bears fan John.
No shout-outs to John.
Big win on Thanksgiving.
No, big loss on Thanksgiving because he hates Thanksgiving food and he's a terrible person.
But his Bears won.
Yeah, his Bears won.
With Chase Daniel at starting quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh.
My favorite thing to happen on Thanksgiving Day in football. Shout out, since we're doing that, to Chase Daniel. Now, Kyle, if I had told you coming into this game that the Chicago Bears would go on the road on a Thanksgiving game after playing like 7 hours earlier on Sunday Night Football.
It was 13 hours, but okay.
No Mitchell Trubisky. No Mitchell Trubisky. And by the way, if I had also told you before the game, hey, just so you know, the Bears are going to rush for a grand total of 38 yards. But they came away with a 7-point victory. Chase Daniel goes 27 of 37, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He was sacked 4 times. And he still busted a 106.8 rating. That's a good performance, and that's the type of performance a team needs that's going to go to the playoffs and do well. Those games that you could easily lose, you could have packed it in, you could have used excuses. Hey, you thought the Kings were tired yesterday. How were those Bears? And they were missing their De'Aaron Fox, and they still went on the road and got a win against an under 500 team. So that to me, I respect that, and I wanted to shout Chase Daniel out.
My favorite thing from the Thanksgiving Day games was Drew Brees throwing 4 touchdowns to 4 dudes I'd never heard of in my life.
Yeah, it was great for fantasy purposes.
Keith Kirkwood, Austin Carr, Tommy Lee Lewis, Tommy Lee, all one name there.
Yeah.
And Dan Arnold, because apparently those were New Orleans Saints players and not fans that they picked up off the street before the game.
Couple of things for you here, Kyle. We're spending way too much time on
we
this.
are. Entirely too much.
Just run through the names real quick. First name?
Keith Kirkwood.
Keith Kirkwood. His family is the Kirkwood family that owns a ski resort up near Tahoe.
Oh, right.
Second name?
Tommy Lee Lewis.
Tommy Lee Lewis.
Men in Black guy.
Men in Black guy.
Right.
Cousin of Tommy Lee Jones. Third guy?
Dan Arnold.
Yeah, Dan Arnold. Tom Arnold and Roseanne Arnold's child. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Yeah. And Austin Carr.
Austin Carr.
Brother of Derek and David.
Brother of Derek and David, nephew of former Sacramento King Michael Carr.
Oh, right. That's a little known fact.
Little known fact. Sir.
Very cool.
Hey, second down.
Second down.
What team has surprised you the most through 12 weeks?
I alluded to this earlier. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars. They to me are the biggest shock. This was a Super Bowl contender. And if nothing else, even if you said, yeah, well, you know what, though, Blake Bortles sucks, and eventually he's going to get schemed out and they'll notice, okay, then what the hell's happened to the defense? What the hell has happened to that defense? I did not expect this out of Jacksonville whatsoever, and it sucks. I root for a team like Jacksonville because, as a Kings fan, if I see a perennially sucky team try to turn it around or start to turn it around, I'm rooting for them. They to me, are the biggest surprise.
Biggest surprise to me has been the Colts. I didn't think they're 6-5. I didn't think they would win 6 games all year. And now they're 6-5 and in prime position for a playoff spot or to make a playoff push. So I'm extremely surprised by how well Andrew Luck has bounced back and just where Frank Reich has that team in general. They are very, very good.
I'm not trying to nitpick. Is your biggest surprise the Colts or is your biggest surprise Andrew Luck?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
I think if you had told me Andrew Luck was having this kind of season, I'd tell you, oh, okay, cool, they'll win 6 or 7 games.
Right.
But I didn't think he would be this good this year, and then their defense has been very surprising as well.
Third down.
Third down.
Did the 49ers stick with Reuben Foster for too long?
We're going to get into this more at 8:05. I think the knee-jerk reaction is, yeah, they did. I think the nuance, though, is we saw the last go-round. This is a very delicate topic, which is why we need more time to talk about it. I don't know that they could have released him after the last go-round, especially after some of the information came out about the tape, and there were some questions with the validity of it, and you have to do innocent until proven guilty. I'm a big believer in that. I'm just glad he's gone now.
Right, and for people that are gonna inevitably flip out because there's people who are weird like this and are gonna go, what happened to innocent until proven guilty? This is not a matter of what Reuben Foster did. The 49ers don't know, frankly.
Right.
They're not waiting for the legal process this time. He broke rules that were well established.
Yep.
And he broke their trust, which is why he's no longer with the team.
Multiple times.
I think. Long answer short, I think they did the right thing in handling this from the jump. But we can dive into it later because there's definitely more to talk about. But no, I don't think they held on to him for too long.
Fourth down.
Fourth down.
Titans, Texans, who you got?
I'm sticking with my Texans, dude. I'm sticking with my Texans, the team that Kyle does not believe in. The Texans winners of 7 straight. Against the Titans that are, but what's Marcus Mariota status for tonight? He is in. This feels like one of those games the Titans could sneak out and win. Just be tight.
They do that every time I'm out on the Titans. They win a game like this.
Yeah.
But logic says the Texans win and win handily because the Titans are not very good and the Texans are rolling.
Deshaun Watson, Lamar Miller, and DeAndre Hopkins put on a show at some point tonight. Probably a mid-scoring game. I'm looking in the 20s, maybe low 30s for one of the teams, but I will take the Texans as well. All right, that's it for Four Down Territory. We'll get back into football, Reuben Foster, and some of the highlights and lowlights from the football Week 12 that was. Coming up next, it's your turn. Kings Jazz. We're going to get into the Kings Warriors. A lot of stuff on the table here at 339-1140, 1-800-920-1140. Your biggest issues with yesterday's game. If you have thoughts on Saturday's game as well. We got a lot of Justin Jackson people out there that are tired and just won't take it anymore. We got to get into that too. A lot of Kings next. Sports 1140 KHTK.
This is Kyle Madson with your top stories on Sports 1140. The Kings lost to the Jazz 133-112 yesterday. They dropped both games of a weekend back-to-back, but Sacramento now gets a few days off before wrapping up November at home on Thursday against the LA Clippers. The Raiders kept it close in Baltimore up until the fourth quarter when Baltimore rattled off 14 unanswered points en route to a 34-17 victory in Baltimore. And the 49ers fell flat coming out of their bye week in Tampa Bay with a 27-9 loss to the Buccaneers. San Francisco also announced yesterday before the game that they are releasing linebacker Reuben Foster following his arrest for a domestic violence incident Saturday night at the team hotel in Tampa. Foster's release will be processed today, at which point he will land on waivers. It's 7:33. Peak Financial wants to talk retirement. Dial pound 250 and say the word money. Those are your top stories, and now back to the drive on Sports 1140 KHTK.
It's The Drive on Sports 1140 KHTK.
Hey, Kyle, real quick. It's the first time I've probably done this in my career, play an entire clip in Spanish. And to our Spanish-speaking listeners, welcome and thank you, and please enjoy. To the rest of you, you don't need to know what they're saying. I have the translation on the board. This is Diego Maradona being asked. He was in attendance for a Liga MX match, and the announcers afterwards, these are ESPN Deportes announcers, ask him about it, and Diego's reply, I don't want to say it's the greatest post-match, post-game interview ever, but I don't want to say that it isn't either. Here you go.
Estando acá, Diego, me imagino que has visto también más el fútbol de la Liga MX de primera división. Lo has observado más de cerca, me imagino que ya algo lo conocías. ¿Qué piensas de la Liga MX, de su nivel?
No,
That's Diego Maradona, everybody. The great Diego Maradona.
I respect that. I respect that they go after somebody like him and get that kind of insight and knowledge.
That's right.
Like he's obviously he's a legend in soccer, and to get that level of insight, like that's not something you just get from any random guy. Mm-hmm. And that's why you go track guys like that down. So shout out to the TV channel that got that.
Shout out to ESPN for getting that great quote. It's going to go down in history as one of the great sports quotes ever in sports history. Let's start off this King segment with a text at 441140. Shall we, Kyle? From the 916. And the prefix on this phone number is 420. I'm not lying. The Kings should keep Fox, Heald, Bagley, and Willie, but trade the bench for either McCollum or Beal. I agree. I completely agree.
Hang on, can I keep going on this text?
Yeah, please do.
Lakers should trade for Kemba Walker and Bradley Beal or Lillard and McCollum. Lakers don't need Anthony Davis. Take away. Ball. Popewell.
Popewell. I think that's Kentavious Caldwell-Pope.
I can't do it.
But they should take away.
Ball. Popewell. Hart. Ingram. Kings need a small forward that can shoot.
I just like that the dude's phone number starts with 420. He should have his own prefix. It's 420. Oh, my goodness. Trade away Popewell. And trade away the Kings bench for Beal or McCollum. Okay. The Kings took on the Warriors, Kyle, on Saturday. We have yet to talk about that. All right, let's talk about it. Started out
Popewell
fairly well for the Kings.
Buddy now with a high screen, launches a deep straightaway three. He hits the triple. Kings couldn't buy one early. Now they're 6 for 15. It's a 13-6 push by Sacramento and a 7-point lead for the first time at 55-48.
Iman Shumpert, who did not play Sunday, had a great game Saturday.
Shumpert, quick transition strike for three. He's got another one. 3 triples from Iman Shumpert after he missed his first 2. That's going to be your Petkus brothers moment of the game as the Kings get a 6-point lead as a result at 52-46.
Thank you, G-Man. That's the Petkus brothers moment of the game. Get the spectacular backyard you've always wanted with a beautiful Petkus brothers patio or sunroom. Best price, best value, guaranteed every day. What's that you say? Petkus brothers. Well, it ended up a tie game. Kings allowed couple of offensive rebounds. Warriors finally convert to take a 1-point lead. Kings had an opportunity to win, well, in a couple different places.
8 seconds to go in this one. The Kings will put it in play from the front court to our left. Near side of the floor, Iman Shumpert will be the trigger man. Buddy Hield, Marvin Bagley, Willie Cauley-Stein, and De'Aaron Fox. Who gets the call? What has Dave Yeager designed? Yeager's at midcourt, leaning forward, still hollering out instruction. Shumpert ready now, takes the ball from Williams. 1 fake, 2 fakes, inbounds to Hield. Hield drives, reaches with the left hand, no good. Ball is wedged on a putback attempt by Marvin Bagley. It wedged between the rim and the glass. That's a dead ball that will result in a jump ball at center court with 2.1 seconds to go. That's about the worst thing that could have happened for the Sacramento Kings. A great attempt to keep it alive, and it just stuck.
I don't know who wrote the titles to these stats or these highlights. I think it was the great Dave Deuce Mason, but I love the highlight title here. Kings wedgie forces jump ball, and Doug Christie used that term as well. That was a wedgie. It was wedged between the rim and the backboard. So here's what that set up. And this was there was a lot of pain Kings fans went through on this play, and I'll break it down for those who aren't diehard crazy fans or who have short memories. There was 0.3 left on the clock. Dave Yeager and his team have the ball, inbounding from pretty much the same area as the Memphis Grizzlies inbounded a few years back when Dave Yeager was the coach. And they managed to come back with like 13 seconds left and win the ball game. 0.3 left, inbounds pass, Courtney Lee caught it, and basically on the fly, reverse layup, Memphis wins. Would have been a huge victory for the Kings. It was a beautiful play drawn up by Dave Yeager, despite the fact that Ryan Hollins tipped the ball and the refs missed it. So here we go. There was about a 5-minute delay between that jump ball and what panned out after that and that play, which made it even worse. You had Steve Kerr call a timeout. Yeager called a timeout. You had all this buildup with 0.3 left. And then what happens? They end up deflecting the ball. It never got to anybody. Warriors win. Warriors win a game that really, going into the game, the Warriors should have won. They're the 3 out of 4 year defending champions playing at home. Yeah, they'd struggled recently, but they got back on track the night before. Kings had this game, though, and as you saw that, the Kings, in my opinion, for what was on the floor, and yes, the Warriors had no Steph Curry. They still have no DeMarcus Cousins and no Draymond Green. And that's a big deal. It's very clear who the most important cog on that team is, as much as I love Kevin Durant, who had just an insane game. Steph Curry is the glue that sticks them together. But despite that, the Kings were in a position where they should have won the ball game. When you have a 1-point lead, you outscored the Warriors in the fourth quarter. And they just allowed too many offensive rebounds on that play. They outplayed the Warriors, in my opinion, throughout the evening, including when you outshoot the Warriors from behind the arc by 10%. That's a pretty big deal. But Durant had 44. Klay Thompson had 31. That was a game that Marvin Bagley had 20 and 17 in 34 minutes, his biggest game. Buddy Hield had 28 and looked every bit as much as he could fit in with the Splash Brothers, like no issue. But when you allow 2 offensive rebounds on a possession that late in the game, the Warriors are eventually going to convert.
And the last play, the Klay Thompson tip in, you need to get a body on him.
Yeah.
If anybody even gets a little bit of a touch on him, he doesn't get that put back.
Nope. And Klay's been struggling almost this entire season. He goes for 33. Klay Thompson loves playing the Kings. In fact, I'd love to sign Klay. Obviously, that'd be a dream signing at the 3 for the Kings for obvious reasons. But one of the top reasons would be that the Kings don't have to play against him anymore.
Yeah.
It's actually addition by addition. You don't have to play him.
Classic addition by addition scenario addition there.
Addition.
Yeah.
339-1140, 1-800-920-1140. So the Kings lose that ball game. Willie Cauley-Stein had a rough game. He's had a rough little stretch here, by the way. Rough couple of games. 6 points and 4 boards in 20 minutes. He had foul trouble. He had 4 fouls. De'Aaron Fox has also been struggling as of late. Now, he had a little bit of a bounce back last night. But De'Aaron Fox, I put something out on Twitter last night through 3 1/4 games. It was 3 games, and then the first quarter of yesterday was something like 9 of 30, something silly, and not been shooting well, had not been scoring. Last night he had 13 points. It's just really kind of this is a stretch for De'Aaron. You're starting to hear questions now, and I think they're premature. But you're starting to hear questions. Well, has the league started to scheme against him now? Are they figuring him out a little bit? Have they found something on De'Aaron? Have they found something that they're exploiting on him? Because the last week plus, he has not looked consistently like the player he's looked like the first month of the season. So it's very interesting. Is this just a little bit of a slumpy? Or has the league found something out against him?
We won't know for sure until we see kind of a bigger sample.
Agreed.
But we talked a lot about, at the beginning of the year, the sustainability of the pace that they play.
Mm-hmm.
And especially a guy like De'Aaron Fox, who is the fastest guy on the court at all times.
Yeah.
You imagine that even with days off, like he's going to kind of sputter a little bit here and there. And that's just a matter of adjustment and learning how to slow things down a little bit. But I don't think you can take a 2-game sample and say it's anything more than, it's a couple of off games. He's been so good this year that
True. Not ready to release him yet.
Right. The immediate thing isn't to point to some long-term issue.
No. I do think it's a situation where you do want to take a look at some things. You know, we'll get to the bright spots like we talked about here in a second. Well, last night, the Kings started out they started out fine.
Bogey rolls to the right side, accelerates to the baseline, pulls up, the floater's on the way, it bounces high, and it falls in. 7-0 start for Sacramento. Bogdan Bogdanovic and the Kings with a 3-for-3 start to this ball game. 90 seconds into our first quarter.
Last thing on De'Aaron Fox here. With the way he made adjustments after last season and came into this year ready to go, I don't doubt that if the league has identified a weakness in his game, he will fix it.
Oh, I completely agree with you there. Absolutely. He's shown in a very short time that he will attack voraciously his weaknesses and try to work on them. And as De'Aaron Fox goes, so does this team.
Right.
That he is everything that operates this team positively. Here's the problem with last night. They started out great, and then Ricky Rubio decided to have one of his best scoring games as a pro. One of his best, maybe his best scoring quarter. I didn't see the stats, but I think he had 16 in the first quarter, including this easy score.
Here's Rubio now driving right, scoops it and scores. That's just awful defense right there by Sacramento, and Dave Yeager is not happy. Boy, I don't blame him. That was just sloppy. That was no effort defense whatsoever, and Yeager just stomped onto the floor, banging his hands together, barking at his team. while calling timeout. Utah has its first lead of the ball game, 21-19.
Sometimes when I hear G-Man make a call like that, I can tell he's upset too.
Oh, he was not happy.
That makes me think, like, you imagine growing up and being disciplined by the G-Man? Like, if you did something wrong, one of his kids did something wrong. Like, I know his son Bobby a little bit. He was a great guy. I got to ask him one day. Like, I can't imagine G-Man having a harsh word for someone. I would feel like the worst ever.
Right, one of those people that he just offers a critique of what you did or how you acted, and that's
crying.
all that you need.
I start crying.
It's like, yeah, all right.
Instant tears. They should have piped in this call to the players at halftime. Say, not only is Coach Yeager disappointed in you, G-Man's disappointed in you too. You can hear it in his voice. Don't upset the G-Man. He's been having so much fun this year.
Don't upset the G-Man is the title of today's show.
Maybe Buddy Hield heard that call because he responded. Man, he's been shooting well lately.
Harry Giles knocks it away in transition. Steal right back. Here's Buddy. Feet set. Wing three. He's got another one from the deep left angle. Back-to-back three-pointers from Buddy Hield, forcing Quinn Snyder and the Jazz to call a timeout. That's your Petkus Brothers moment of the game.
That's right. Petkus Brothers moment of the game. Thank you, G-Man. Get the spectacular backyard you've always wanted with a beautiful Petkus Brothers patio or sunroom. Best price, best value, guaranteed every day. What do we need more of? Petkus Brothers. Thank you. So they lose yesterday. The worst game of the year, in my opinion. Last night was a bad game. Saturday night was a heartbreaking game. And now they have 3 days off to practice, to lock back in. You said something earlier in the show, Kyle, and I completely agree with you. Thursday's game against the Clippers is a pretty important game for the immediate future of this ball club. If they win this game, they will be above 500 going into December. They have the Indiana Pacers December 1st. When we looked at this schedule, which is currently the 6th toughest in the NBA and will only get better or worse because the Clippers are so good this year so far, and then they have Indiana coming. They have L.A. and Indiana as part of this 3-game road trip before they go out on the road for 4. But those road games, Kyle, Phoenix, Cleveland, Indiana, and Chicago, that's a road trip I look at and I say, we probably won't, but we could very easily take 3 or 4 on that trip. Then you come home, you have Minnesota, you have Golden State, which will probably be healthy by then. Dallas and Minnesota on the road, Oklahoma City, Memphis, New Orleans at home. At Clippers, home Lakers, at Lakers. That's your December. Not the easiest month, but not the hell month that was November. You're going to see teams start to lock in more as the season progresses. We've seen this before many times in the NBA. The first month or two is often goofy. And then you start to see, this team that's really good goes on. The the Warriors will go on a 9-game winning streak. Oh, look, here come the Raptors again. Oh, it looks like the Celtics have turned it around. And some of those storylines may not pan out. But what's great about a team like the Kings, or what could be great about a team like the Kings, is they're so young that you can reasonably expect them to get better as well. You would think that Marvin Bagley is going to progress as the season goes on. You would think Harry Giles is going to progress as the season goes on. De'Aaron Fox is in his 2nd year. Willie Cauley-Stein's coming up on the midway point of his contract here. And I want to bring this up again because we're kind of at a milestone. This team, Kyle, is 10-10. They have an opportunity to be above 500 going into December. That's almost 2 full months of basketball. We are about 2.5 months away from the All-Star break. Vlade Divac said 2 years ago that if in a couple years I haven't turned things around, I will step down. And I know going into this year that was a hot topic with a lot of people. Now, I'm not ready to decide anything in November. But I think if they're within spitting distance of 500 in February, I think you put that question to bed.
Yeah.
And I would go a step further. I think if they're within spitting distance of 500 in February, I would like to see the Kings lock both Vlade and Dave Yeager's staff up to a nice big extension. Nice big old extension. I think they deserve it. And I
think quelling that concern
yes,
would be enormous. Just for the team, the fan base. I just said, yeah, these are our guys. This is what we're going forward with. Instead of having that speculation hanging over the team. Can you imagine if in February they're sitting there at 500 or close to 500 and fighting for an 8th seed?
Yeah.
And the conversation is, well, who's the GM and the coach next year? Ugh.
I'm not sure I can remember the last time. You probably have to go back to the early part of this millennium. But, Kyle, I feel absolutely confident. So confident that as long as I was getting some value back, I'd bet my house on it. That if you told me two things. Number one, this Kings team will stay relatively healthy. They'll have bumps and bruises. They'll have a couple injuries here and there, but nothing devastating. And you told me that they were going to keep this core together for a minimum of 5 years. And by core, I'm talking Fox, Hield, Bagley, Giles, I'll throw in there, Bogdanovich. I wouldn't even count Willie Cauley-Stein. Because, again, I don't think he'll be here next year. If you told me they were going to keep those 5 players together and or maybe trade one of them for a better piece if that's what comes up, for the first time in a long time, I'm not just kind of confident, I'm positive this is a playoff team.
Yeah.
And possibly a title contender in the future. The goal was build this team up, and by the time you've got the Rockets and the Warriors starting to kind of wind down their run, seems the San Antonio already has, that you're on the rise. And I can just imagine a situation. I don't know if they'd all work on the floor, but I look at guys like Fox, Hield, Bagley, Giles, and then let's throw Willie in there now this year. You have the ability to put all those guys or some of those guys on the floor at the same time together. That's as an athletic team as I've seen. That's in the NBA. That's just a team that flies, that has the ability to shoot a little bit with Hield. So I'm not tripping right now. This team has earned enough trust to where they're better than we thought they'd be at this point of the year by a long shot. I didn't like last night's game. I wish they'd have won us Saturday. I think more time behind them, more experience, they'll win those games like Saturday night.
I think so too.
So we'll take a break. We'll come back to a little NFL. Kyle, did you do the Tiger Phil thing on Friday?
None of it.
From the 707, we got to go to break.
Dang, no.
It's just this guy just
so
you know.
You can't read this awesome text after the break.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's going to become a thing.
It's not
and
an
we're
awesome
going to be
text.
6 minutes late.
It's a stupid text.
Stupid text at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, just a stupid text at 8 o'clock. You don't need that. We'll take a break. Stupid text. This is Drive Sports 1140 KHTK.